Hello, and thank you so much for dropping by this video. For anyone who's new to this channel or this topic, or Bruno Groening, what is all this about? Well, it's about two things, really. One is that this very special yet humble man named Bruno Groening taught a very simple technique of how to absorb healing life energy. And so during this gathering, we're going to do it, and I'll lead you through it. It may sound esoteric or strange or weird to some people, and it's actually quite simple and pleasurable. And also, we're going to be looking at some things that Bruno Groening taught about what he called the rules of the game of life, how to navigate this life, and how to live well in a way that brings happiness, harmony, and health. If you're new and you'd like more information about Bruno Groening, please feel free to see my website, www.thehealingstream.org. So a very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us live, and a very warm welcome to everyone who's dropping by and watching the recording of this video. Thank you so much for joining in. So first, how to receive this healing life energy that Bruno Groening spoke about. And let's be clear that this idea is not new. It shows up in all around the world, all throughout history in different cultures. It's very simple. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards, back in an upright position, not too stiff, but not slouched over either. Just a nice, relaxed, upright posture. If possible, not leaning against the back of your chair. And then close your eyes. And please hand over all burdens, worries, illnesses to a higher power that you trust in. And if you don't particularly have an idea of a higher power, I invite you to just hand it over to life itself or to Bruno Groening. He spoke of himself as a spiritual helper who could take on people's burdens. That may sound strange. It sounded strange to me till I tried it and it worked. But regardless, please, let's hand over our fears, our resentments, worries about the past. It's past. Fears about the future. The future doesn't exist right now. So let's hand it over. And then please think of something that makes you joyful. And then begin to observe your body. Having the will, the energy, the intention to receive healing life energy. And that's the entire practice right there. Observing your body while having the intention to take in good life energy. Observing the body, taking in good energy. Noticing what you feel. So, once again, a very warm welcome to everyone watching live. Hi, forever loving everything. So, when describing this practice of tuning in, Bruno Groening would sometimes instruct people to welcome the peaceful quiet. In fact, in essence, he said it's very hard to receive this energy if we're agitated. That's one of the reasons he said, let peace or let calmness be holy for human beings. I don't know about anyone else out there, but when I'm not centered and not calm, things don't go as well. And, there's this idea, well, if I rush or if I just focus and push through it, certainly maybe there's a time and place for that. And afterwards, we feel tired. We're not really present. It's very hard to enjoy what we're doing. So, calmness and centeredness, like, it's not the most sexy thing, right? It's not the most exciting or glamorous thing. Yet, it's a very powerful thing to be calm and centered. And as I followed this path and really studied Bruno's teachings, it seems to me that it's one of the foundations to stay calm, to stay in faith and in trust, no matter what's going on. I personally haven't perfected it yet. Every day, I like to think I make a little progress, and it's very easy to feel good when things are going good, right? But what about staying calm and centered when things aren't going good? Groening said one of the reasons we lose our calm is because we're not filled up with good energy. This idea of being full and good energy. In good energy, he doesn't just mean like, oh, I have a lot of energy, so I can do a lot of things. It's more like vibrancy, aliveness, being full of aliveness that's also simultaneously relaxed. Many philosophers, even a few religions, are based around the idea of peace, of finding an inner peace that's unshakable. So let's reflect on this for a minute or two. How important is peace and calm to each one of us? Don't take my word for it. And there's no need to. Bruno Groening didn't want people to believe what he said. He wanted them to find out for themselves whether what he's saying is true. So let's inquire a little bit. Is it true that peace and calmness is sacred, is holy, and is important for a healthy life? He said that once a person gets agitated, it's harder to take in this divine energy. It's harder to stay connected to God. Let's reflect on that and see what our own experience has to say about that. Observing the body, taking in the good, noticing what you feel. Here's here's something that Bruno Groening said. This is on page. Hi, Claudie. This is page 189. Um, well, let's see, 190. Bruno Groening in this. This is from the book Powers of the Spirit, and in this story, Bruno Groening turned up the TV because he didn't want his neighbors to be. His neighbors would listen in on him. And here's what he said about the television. I only use it for purposes such as the present one, meaning to create noise. He said he had nosy neighbors who like to listen in on him. Naturally, it gives off radiation that is harmful for the body. But if a person is charged up with enough divine power and goes on taking it in regularly, and taking in the divine power regularly, they will suffer no harm. Only broken down and weakened and anxious natures become burdened by all the various environmental influences. But on the other hand, for someone who lives under divine guidance and who has been powerfully charged up, even strong earth radiation, such as, for example, the water channels give off in the earth as they cross each other, remains without any negative effects at all. However, the moment that anyone takes in anxiety, for that is already evil, they lose their connection with God, and without any protection, they fall prey to all the bad influences that they often just imagine to themselves. Even though the even though even through the fear of an illness, evil can already have been picked up. And if the person doesn't turn around, but just stays stuck in their strong ideas, it will inevitably take its full effect. So Bruno Groening can say a lot in one paragraph. So first and foremost, he knew what people are just starting to discover today, that certain technology is actually harmful. It gives off a radiation that's harmful. However, he says it's only harmful if the person isn't full of both. He says there's two ways that someone can be protected from this. First, they be full of good energy, and second, that they be connected to God. Well, we all want to be full of good energy, and we're doing that right now, taking the energy in. Now, how do we stay connected to God? Well, Bruno shows one of the main ways that people disconnect from God, and that's through taking in fearful thoughts. Now, human beings tend to think that fear is natural, but I'm reminded of a quote by Mohandas Gandhi, um, the great Indian saint of last century, who said it's very dangerous to confuse what is habitual with what is natural, meaning that we think of fear as natural, but is it? Bruno Groening points out that fear is a manifestation of evil. It disconnects us from God, and then it allows in even more evil. So let's reflect on this, that how to stay, because we all want to feel safe. I started off saying that Bruno Groening's teachings help people to feel happy and healthy and have a harmonious life. And on a very primal level, all of us want to feel safe. The thing is trying to arrange our lives. I've certainly tried it. If I do this, or if I cut off contact with this person, or if I get an alarm system for my house, or if I this kind of insurance, or if I, you know, there's all sorts of things that we try as human beings to feel safe. I'm not saying those things are bad, but do they really work? Do they really give us the sense of safety we're looking for? And Bruno Groening pointed out that the real safety comes from being connected to God and really maintaining that connection through having faith and being vigilant against negative thinking, which is what disconnects us. So let's spend a little time reflecting on this, filling ourselves up with this good energy, strengthening that connection to God, and meditating on what's important to us, what really matters to us. Because here in the 21st century, we have internet and Facebook and job and relationships and family and hobbies and, um, relations with the neighbors and planning a trip and the internet, which is like we can learn about everything and maybe some things we don't want to learn about. Everything's available at our fingertips. So the question, though, is with all these options, what's really important to us? What's really going to give us what we want and need? Let's take in some good energy and ask for some guidance on these really essential life questions. Observing the body, taking in the good. Noticing what you feel. Really deciding to be charged up. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but really wanting to be full of good energy, having that intention. being vigilant for every negative thought, especially thoughts of fear, and giving those away. So, one of the fundamentals that Bruno Groening taught was to stay really charged up with good energy. Now, when I first heard about this, I kind of thought, well, that's not spiritual. My idea of spirituality was, you know, something off in the sky or permanent enlightenment. I had all these ideas about spirituality. And I realized that a lot of my spirituality was disconnected from life, from the day to day living. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I've met many people who've been on the spiritual path for a long time. And then at a certain point, they say, this isn't helping me live my life. That these different paths, these different paths I've been following are actually disconnecting me from my life and um, making me somehow less functional. Like, yes, I'm aware of all these spiritual truths, but it's like I don't have my feet on the ground anymore. That was certainly my experience, and so I was very grateful for um, Bruno Groening pointing out that the spiritual path is about life. It's about living well. And the first thing he said, our first duty is to take care of our bodies. And my initial reaction was like, that's not spiritual. My old definition of spiritual was something not really connected with this world. And as a human being, this body, our bodies, um, they're kind of like our temples. They're they are the temples that house our divine spirit, and it's we can get away with having a dirty car because we just get in and out of our car and we drive for a little bit, but we're in these bodies for our whole life. And one of the fundamentals of caring for this body, according to Bruno Groening, was keeping it charged with good energy, full of aliveness and vibrancy, so that we can live well, so that we have energy um, to be in service, but also so that we can fend off evil. Bruno said, in essence, when the body is fully charged of good energy, he said, quote, you can calmly oppose evil. It's so much easier to catch the negative thoughts when we're full of good energy. Welcome, Gerald. Welcome, Amy. It's the first time you said hello on the channel. Thanks for dropping by. So that's just kind of like life one-on-one. Hmm. And Bruno Groening actually went so far as to say that life is God, or that God is life. Well, actually, he didn't speak English, so he didn't say God is life. He said, Gott ist Leben. And Leben means existence, life, and animation, meaning like the animating force. So, so let's fill ourselves up with this animating force so that we can live well. And that's just the beginning. Next, in a little bit, we'll talk about how healing occurs. And let's see, I hope I don't mispronounce your name, Seared Majid. I hope I'm pronouncing that. Welcome. Once again, I think that's your first time on the channel. Thanks for saying hello. And I'm glad that what I'm saying is having some resonance. So let's observe the body, having the will, the intention to fill up with good energy, to let go of everything not good, to align ourselves with God, with the good, to make a firm decision. I don't want to have anything to do with evil anymore. I want to be in alignment with the good, in alignment with God. And then observe the body, having the will, the intention to take this energy in. Noticing what you feel. So part of this path is about being guided. And soon after I started to tune in a lot, my dreams started to change, and I started to get guidance in my dreams. And one day I had a dream about, I've studied martial arts on and off my whole life. It's been a deep passion of mine, and I was feeling like, I want to start studying again. I hadn't been studying because I had taken time off because I had so many health problems, and some of them were starting to heal now that I was practicing this path and taking in this energy. And so one night I had a dream about a particular martial arts school, and I woke up and I was like, I think that was guidance to go to that school, but I was feeling like, oh no, it was a martial art I'd heard of and didn't like at all. I had visited that school once. A friend of mine was studying there, and I didn't like the school. So I was like, really, Bruno? Really, God? But I felt very strongly that it was guidance, and I went to that school, and it ended up being my all-time favorite martial art and all-time favorite school I studied at. I learned so much there. But one of the things was I didn't know how it was going to work because one of the health problems I had was knee troubles. I was to the point where I couldn't really put any strain on my knees. It was hard to even go up and down stairs. And I was 39 years young. So it was definitely a bummer. Um, but I didn't know how it was going to work because this martial art was Taekwondo. And for anyone who knows martial arts, Taekwondo is a lot of kicking, a lot of legs, and a lot of jumping, kicking with jumps. And as far as martial arts go, it's one of the most, in terms of your knees, it's one of the most challenging or strenuous. Not that it's bad for your knees, but if you can think about, you jump up on one leg, you use one leg to jump up and kick with the other, and then land on your. It's like it's not easy on the knees. But I just trusted, and I kept tuning in. And after a couple weeks of doing it, my knees really started to hurt. I said, "No, this is just regulation. I don't accept it." And I had I had a knee condition. Actually, let me back up. I forget the um, medical term, but it's just water in the knees. I think is the rough term for it. I just had swelling that wouldn't go away, and I managed it through stretching and through this special cream that burned when I put it on, but it would help the swelling. In between stretching and this special cream, I could walk and I could dance a little bit if I was careful, but I certainly couldn't do martial arts or anything really vigorous. And I so there. So after about 2 weeks of the martial arts, my knees really started to hurt, and I'd be like, "No, this is regulation." And I just kept doing the stretches. I just kept putting on the cream, and I just kept trusting and giving it away to Bruno. And and there were moments where I'd be out walking and my knees would just hurt worse than ever. I'm like, okay, that's definitely regulation. Because for anyone who's new, Bruno spoke about when you take this energy in, a cleansing can happen where sometimes the symptoms flare up a little bit worse. And I'd be like, no, it's not getting worse. It's just regulation. And I would give it away and it would pass. And then one time I was out dancing and all of a sudden my knees hurt so bad that I actually felt like I couldn't walk. And I was very firm. I said, no, my knees are not getting worse. This is regulation. I don't accept this. And I just kept walking. And within seconds, this pain on a scale of 1 to 10 was like a 9.5, excruciating pain. It was just gone and the knees were healed. And after that point, I was able to do this crazy martial art where you jump up on one leg, you kick, and then you crouch as you land, and all kinds of. I had to be very careful with yoga, but I was able to then do yoga from then on. So I'm very grateful for that healing, and I can walk up and down stairs. Um, I used to have to go one step at a time, and now I just walk up and down steps. So the doctor said I would have it for the rest of my life. No cure medically. No cure medically, but a cure spiritually. So let's take a moment and really reflect on the truth that nothing is impossible for God. Bruno didn't actually say that. He said, God is nothing impossible, which I translate and I understand to mean God is limitless possibility. So, whatever that thing is that we all have it, there's something we think, oh, that'll never heal. Let's give that away to Bruno and let's receive something else in its place. Observing the body, taking in the good. For anyone who's new to this, I'm not asking you to believe that what I said is true, but I am asking you to be open to the possibility that it is. And it is true. And if need be, I'll go get the medical reports that show I had an incurable condition. And what's really important is that we be open to the possibility. Taking in the good, handing over what's not good to God or to a helper we trust. Taking in the peace, handing over illness. My understanding is that Bruno Groening defined illness just as any imbalance, whether it be physical, emotional, mental. Illness is just a manifestation of evil. So handing over all evil and taking in the good. So let's take a moment and ask for anyone who's in our hearts, who we feel might need some support and energy. Let's ask for clarity about what our purpose is here on this earth. Why are we here? Let's ask for clear knowing. Let's ask for the towns we live in. Let's ask for Mother Earth and every living thing on it. Let's plead and beg for pardon, for mercy, for grace, that we may be freed from all evil, from the evil one. Let's dedicate our lives to serving God, the good. I'd like to thank everyone for joining in today. And we had a couple new people. Warm welcome to Amy, and I hope I'm saying your name right, Sierd Majid. And thanks to everyone else for saying hello and everyone else for joining in. I wish you a day full of good energy and a life dedicated to staying connected to the good and then doing the good. You're so welcome. Thank you so much for joining in. I wish everyone a beautiful morning, afternoon, and evening. And may the force, the healing, awakening, guiding force of God be with you always. Now, actually, in my view, the force is with all of us always. And may we all seek it out and want it and want to be guided by it. Thank you so much. Take care. Much love.